From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme Three podcast. Hello and welcome, cinephiles, cinema lovers, movie appreciators, friends, and family to the Gimme Three podcast, a series for cinephiles, the show where we pick three movies based off of one theme. I am your host, Nicholas Ybarra, and I'm joined by my co-host today, Bella Efstratis.
Hi, everyone.
And Bella, we've got another special guest. Yeah, we got another special guest joining us today on this episode. And that dude is the hilarious, the insightful Max Sopkin to talk even more musicals. Max, thanks for being here. And how the hell are you doing?
Thank you for having me back. I'm excited to talk about musicals, movie musicals. I've got so many opinions, and I'm so excited to hear both of your opinions about everything that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, we don't know. We haven't obviously we know what movies we're discussing, but we haven't really discussed our thoughts and feelings on them. And for me personally, of the 6 films that we are watching today, 4 of them are new watches for me. I realized that as a child, I did not watch a lot of kids' movies. I think that was like the big understanding that I came to as we were preparing for this episode. I was like, I did not see any of these like infamous, landmark classic kids movies, and they just never.
You know what? And compared to the last episode where we talked about Grease and Zoot Suit and and things like that, like I think what we've picked today kind of skews a lot younger, actually.
Definitely.
So it is kind of surprising that you've never seen any of these.
Definitely. Yeah, Bella, your thoughts before we get into these musicals.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I grew up watching most of the picks today. And there was only one that I hadn't seen, so that was exciting. I won't say what it is just yet, I guess. Keep it a surprise. But yeah, so I was so excited to see what you had picked, Max. And then I kind of tried to choose things that I thought maybe would line up with that a little bit. But they're also films that are near and dear to my heart as well.
Sure.
So I'm also very excited to hear your opinions on everything, having no idea what each of our experiences were.
Picking these 3 movies was much harder than the last episode, where that was 7 Brides for Seven Brothers and Grease and Fiddler on the Roof. That's my top 2. That's so easy, right?
Yeah.
Picking those 3, that took me 5 seconds. Picking these 3 movies took me more than a week.
It's hard.
Yeah, you were texting me back and forth. You were I think you called me crying one night, actually, in the shower.
Yeah.
It's
in a panic.
It's bro, get a hold of yourself.
It's a musical.
Yeah, it's picking the second tier, which, you still love, but because there's so many more, I had to leave a lot on the cutting room floor. I have a long list of runners up. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, I would have picked Fiddler on the Roof for sure. Had that not been done. That is a classic.
Oh it's great.
God. It's so classic. Good. It's amazing. Yeah.
Well, as Max mentioned, the episode that we released last week was another musical episode, Gimme Three Musicals, which was actually recorded about 2 years ago. So if you haven't listened to that episode, absolutely check it out. Max and I each picked 3 musicals that were near and dear to our hearts, but we are returning now. Max is going to give us 3 more, and Bella is going to give us 3 as well. And as a special treat for all of you fans, we are going to be singing this entire episode.
Scared the shit out of me.
I can too.
I know, yeah.
I can and I will. Don't threaten me with a good time.
I wish I could sing. For someone who loves musicals, it's been my life's disappointment to not be able to join in on the fun.
It's not about the tune in your mouth. It's about the song in your heart.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's what it is.
That's beautiful.
That is beautiful. And no better way to start us off. So here we go. Gimme Three movie musicals. Bella is going to start us off on this episode. So Bella, take it away.
Our first musical of the episode is a masterclass in the genre. Stanley Donen and Gene Kelly's 1951 masterpiece, Singin' in the Rain. So to give you guys some background, set in 1927 at the end of the silent film era, Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor star as Don Lockwood and Cosmo Brown, two childhood best friends who have finally made it in show business together. Don has become the most famous leading actor of the moment, alongside his longtime co-star and rumored lover, Lena Lamont, played by the incredible Gene Hagen as well. Of course, their relationship is actually just a cooked-up romance for publicity, as they are two of Hollywood's most beloved stars. With the introduction of talkies, moving pictures with synchronized sound, the film studio is flipped onto its head as it scrambles to make their next picture a talking film. However, their biggest issue isn't just this new technology, it's actually their leading lady. Lena Lamont turns out to have quite the nasally voice. Honestly, it's like nails on a chalkboard if we're being real. But one night, Don Lockwood meets an aspiring actress, Kathy Selden, played by none other than the amazing Debbie Reynolds. While their first meeting is anything but sweet, the two run into each other over time and quickly become close. With production completely stunted due to Lena Lamont's horrendous voice, Don, Cosmo, and Kathy develop a sneaky plan to save the film. They'll turn it into a musical, and Kathy will do the voiceover for Lena. So, honestly, the second I turned this movie on, I just had like a permanent grin pinned to my face because I grew up watching this movie on repeat, but I hadn't seen it in probably 10 years.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. Yeah. So it was one of those things.
That's a long time to go without seeing.
Yeah. It was a really long time. And I noticed because it was one of those things where within the opening credits, it was just a flood of memories. Oh shit, I remember this. But before I jump into my love and appreciation for this movie, I want to turn it over to you guys to hear your thoughts on the film.
We did this my junior year of high school. We did this show at my high school.
Awesome.
Nick and I went to Upland High School. We did it, and I was the production tenor. I sang the song "Beautiful Girls."
Beautiful girl.
Classic.
There you go. Yeah, and it's less costumes in the play than it is in the movie. But I've been watching this with my growing up since I've seen this movie. There's no way I've seen it fewer than 40 times. It is I'm one of those weird people that will watch a movie dozens, if not hundreds of times, just over and over and over again.
I love it.
And so this is endlessly quoted in my life between my sisters and my wife and everybody I know. We all love this movie. But I also have an insane hot take, but I want to wait until after Nick puts in his input.
Yeah, my first introduction to Singing in the Rain was seeing it at high school, seeing Max perform Beautiful Girls, which featured, awesome. A great performance by Max Sopkin. And if I may, Max, a knockout performance by your wife, Emily, as Lena Lamont. She was
no way.
Mm-hmm. Not only was she great, she was an understudy. And 2 weeks before the show, they had to boot the original Lena Lamont out of the cast. And my wife stepped in, and she was incredible.
Incredible.
She was really great.
So that was my introduction to the play, and I was blown away. I thought it was tremendous. We had a great theater program at our high school. And then it wasn't until I think I was in college that I actually saw the film and really, really loved it. And I think I know Max's hot take, but I think what works so much for me in this film is the line that Don Lockwood says early in the film.
Dignity. Always dignity.
Always dignity. Yeah.
And for me, that is obviously it's the theme of the film. And it's the moral compass for this character. But for me, that is where this movie just kind of like hits my heart real right in the soft spot, because it just makes the movie soar. And I think it's an excellent concept, and it shows how hard it is to maintain that concept and that moral compass, especially in the film industry. And it does it really well. And then obviously the dance numbers by Gene Kelly are just jaw-dropping. He's hypnotic in this film. So I'm a big fan of this film. I love every time it's playing at a repertory. If I see an IB Tech print of it somewhere, I go see it on the big screen, just because the colors are are so bold and they fly off the screen. It's great to see on the big screen. But I'm a Singin' in the Rain guy. Yeah.
Okay, I want to preface this hot take.
I'm scared. I'm scared for this hot take.
I want to say I love this movie. Just straight up, I'm putting it out there. Okay, I'm prefacing this by saying it's near and dear to my heart, and I love it. This movie is a testament to the power of screenwriting. That at its core, Singin' in the Rain is a jukebox musical. Okay. And for the listeners who don't know what that means, a jukebox musical is when you take music that exists outside of the show, the movie, and turn it into a show or a movie. So Rock of Ages is a jukebox musical that takes like 80s hair metal and turns it into a movie. Mamma Mia is the most famous of all jukebox musicals because it's ABBA's music turned into a show, right?
Right.
The music of Singin' in the Rain is Nacio Herb Brown and Arthur Freed songs that were turned into a movie because Arthur Freed was head of musical development at MGM at the time. And he's like, how do I get a vehicle for the songs that I wrote 30 years ago into a movie? That is absolutely real. He hired Betty Comden and Adolph Green, who are two of the greatest, movie musical writers of their time, to write an incredible screenplay. The movie is bonkers. In some ways, it feels like really pastiche together in a lot of ways. Like some of the ways that it kind of lines up don't make a ton of sense. Why are we watching this scene with all these costumes and beautiful girls? The Broadway melody.
Girl.
Why do I keep coming back to this? Broadway melody is insane to me. It's insane.
Crazy.
It's crazy, and not in a good way. Personally, not in a good way, like the end of An American in Paris, right? With that Toulouse-Lautrec ballet is so beautiful and is cinematic in a way that kind of transcends appropriately because the movie is about, painting and art and love.
Yeah.
This movie, the Broadway melody, to me just feels kind of forced in a way, and especially Singin' in the Rain coming right off the heels of American in Paris, right? Gene Kelly went from American in Paris to Singin' in the Rain. That was his next picture. He and Stanley Donen, that was their next picture. Feels like, hey, we had a winning formula with An American in Paris. Let's kind of do this same thing in Singin' in the Rain. Do I still love this movie? Of course. Do I still say, here we are, sunset in Camden, every time I pull up to a place that I'm going to? Of course. I'm never going to not watch this movie. But do I think this is the greatest movie musical of all time? I might push back on that from my personal perspective.
Honestly, that's so fair. Now I need to check out An American in Paris. That's what it is, right? American in Paris. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. An American in Paris is just a stunning, gorgeous movie. I don't think it's better than this, but I do think it implements the dream ballet, which is what Broadway melody is.
Yeah.
I think it just fits a little bit better because Broadway melody, in my opinion, just grinds this movie to a halt right at the end.
I honestly totally agree with it. Like, I love that scene. I think it's so mesmerizing, to be honest.
Of course.
But then, like right when it ends, it's like the movie ends.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, what just happened?
It's weird. It's kind of weird. But all the parts of Melody are beautiful. Sid Charisse.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just interesting pacing.
Yeah.
A little bit odd.
I have thoughts on Broadway Melody that the first several times that I watched this movie, I had the same feelings that you had, Max, where I was just like, this is, how I always felt. I felt like they create this Broadway Melody scene as a means of like getting a dance number into The Dueling Cavalier, which is a script and a film that is in total fucking shambles. And then I'm like, okay, they're kind of doing what they are saying, like these like hacks are doing. So it's kind of like, they're trying to fix a broken film, and it's like, are they fixing their own broken film also? It's like very weird and meta. Yeah. And that's how I felt about it for a long time. But on this rewatch, I specifically wanted to zone in on that scene, and I had a different perspective on it this time. And tell me if you think I'm totally out of whack here. But the film kind of starts with this montage. And I love a movie that starts with a montage. It's not as good as Rocky III's opening montage, but it is good.
A few things are.
Yeah. But it shows how Lockwood and Cosmo came up in the industry. And they started at the bottom and worked their way up. And
it's so good.
Fit as a fiddle.
Exactly.
Yes.
And this Broadway Melody, I rewatched it this time. And I was like, this is kind of Lockwood's story, this Broadway Melody. Mm-hmm. They are telling this story of this, upstart actor who's gotta dance. And, he's going from gig to gig and working his way up, and he's made it to the top. And I'm like, yes, it's an odd piece to throw in there, but this was the first time where I was like, this is Don Lockwood inserting his own story into this movie.
Sure.
And that is what an artist does. And so for the first time, Lockwood is doing something that an artist does, which is like the personal conflict he's going through for the whole film. Like, am I an artist or am I a hack? And so I viewed the scene a little bit differently this time, where I was like, okay, this is him finally saying, I am an artist and I'm going to be vulnerable and put my own life story into this script. Now, perhaps that was the weed talking, but I
it's a testament again to Comden and Green and their strength of their script.
Yeah, the script is great.
Really holds together all these songs that should not work together,
right?
But do. So it's a testament to like that kind of homage back to the beginning. I totally agree with you. I hear what you're saying. I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
This movie has one of the greatest ironies, I think, in filmmaking irony. That Debbie Reynolds plays the part where she is meant to dub over Gene Hagen's voice, and yet her own singing was dubbed over in this film.
Is that right?
No way.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Jeez, this might be like the most meta film ever made then.
And the part where she's in the studio dubbing over Lena Lamont's dialogue, not even the singing, just the dialogue, right?
Yeah.
That is Gene Hagen's real speaking voice.
Wow.
So it's Gene Hagen dubbing over herself in place of Debbie Reynolds, because it was thought that Debbie Reynolds' Midwestern accent was like, too provincial.
Too confusing.
Yeah, for that time. So they were like, Gene Hagen has that kind of like that, beautiful mid-Atlantic RP pronunciation. So it's just an insane irony.
I can't believe that.
I do love this movie. It's fantastic. It's absolutely so bonkers. It's a ton of fun.
I gotta say, I would argue that Donald O'Connor's Cosmo Brown is like the fucking backbone of this film for me. Like,
okay, you're a cab. That's like the best throwaway joke.
Hey, Claude, do something. Call me a cab.
Okay, you're a cab.
Thanks a lot.
Call me a cab. Okay, you're a cab. That's the best
You're a
throw.
cab. He's just his performance is like so incredible, and his humor it literally just like warms my heart. Like it's so sweet, but he's just so damn funny and like creative and really just like an honest and true performer, which like perfectly matches his character because he's like playing someone who's just like wholeheartedly obsessed with music and movies and creating, and like he just makes it that much more exciting to watch.
And those piercing blue eyes. So
Wow.
dreamy, those eyes. for the second banana to have looks like that, really, you're like, damn.
It's crazy, yeah. And oh my god, his make 'em laugh number is like, I think it's it's a bold statement, but I think it's one of my favorite scenes out of like any movie of all time.
Oh,
like,
hard agree.
It does exactly what it's supposed to do. Like I laugh my ass off during the scene every single time. I remember thinking it was like the funniest thing as a kid. And even now watching it, I was literally laughing out loud. Like he's just radiating nonstop energy, throwing his body all around the set from beginning to end. And like, it's just so damn funny. I love it.
And then he does a running wall flip at the end.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sorry, Jackie Chan. I didn't know we were doing this right now. Jeez.
I love when he like runs into the brick wall and he's like physically moving his face around with his hands.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. Yeah. It's like, who does that? Only Cosmo Brown. So yeah, I really enjoyed his performance. And then I think my other like favorite number just has to be like Singin' in the Rain. I mean, that sequence, it like makes me emotional. And one, because it kind of reminds me of like my mom, just because we like watched this movie so much together and would always sing this song. But then it's just such a wonderful scene, like in general, just the way they capture it. And the choreography is incredible. Like there's a reason everybody knows this scene, even if they haven't seen the movie. I think the way they film it is just amazing because I think it's really hard to shoot a musical. Like not everybody does it well.
Very few people do it well.
Especially one that has
we're
so
going to
much
talk about some of them today.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. But yeah, like especially it's one that has so much dancing. Like the dancing in this film is insane, and I couldn't believe how many like single long takes are in this scene, and honestly all the musical scenes, but specifically in this one.
Yes,
I think it's like really ingenious camera work because it's like integrated into the choreography, so it like dances with the performers.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I think the single long take is the true. It's like the benchmark for how movie musicals should be directed, and all of the movies that we're talking about today have those in them. I just watched the Mean Girls movie musical this last week because I have a 2-year-old and I don't get to see movies in the movie theater anymore.
Right.
So I have to wait for them to come to streaming. And I think the average shot length in this film was like 5 seconds. It is in Mean Girls so fast. There's great dancing in it, but you would never know because the framing is too tight and the shots are so quick that you don't get to see the hard work and rehearsal that goes into creating the spectacle of it. Whereas Moses Supposes is done in like literally 3 shots. Right. It is just wide and it's long. And the people who are dancing in Mean Girls are not any less talented or less deserving than Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor. You know, like they still they're still great dancers. Why shouldn't we just see them dance?
Yeah.
It goes for fight scenes too. You know, like I always say fight scenes are best done in like wider one take things. And in a lot of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee movies, you see a lot of the fight choreography is all happening in one scene, and it's all the more impressive when you're cut. You actually can't see what the F is going on. This is
you're hiding.
Yeah,
it feels like they're hiding something. Basically, is what to me is what it comes down to.
Or it's like they think people will be bored, but it's like the audience clearly wants to see a musical, so like they're probably not going to be bored. Give the people what they want. Like,
unless you're the Mean Girls marketing team, and then you think that people don't want to see a musical.
That's true. Then you tried to make a musical and tell people it wasn't a musical. Just
For real.
really interesting.
Very strange.
I do know the directors of the Mean Girls musical, by the way. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Great.
I
Let's have them
honestly
on
do
and
wanna
we'll
see
talk
it.
to them about everything that went wrong.
you know, it's before we move on, I haven't seen it yet, but it's surprising to hear you say that, just because one of the directors of that, is such a huge fan of Oneers, and I've AD'd for him several times. I've done a lot of stuff with him, and it's always almost Oneers. Like he's a Oneer, like he's got a hard on for Oneers. So
there is some of it.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know where it breaks down along production lines that your team says, well, we need other shots for coverage. We need other things for safety. And then you get to the editing room and your editor says, well, some things don't work here and some things don't work here. So let's put this together like this. And then it, as much as you might love having like a true one shot, if you have anything else to back up on, you're like, well, we're going to throw that in too. And
Right.
then it kind of falls apart.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why
I do think that there was some. I'll give, there wasn't none.
Yeah.
But not like this.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which you could. Renee Rapp is a legit Broadway star. Why aren't you just doing, half these people are Broadway stars.
Mhm.
Why aren't you just doing, true one shots?
Yeah, they're used to it.
Yeah. That's really
used to it.
interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
Well, Singin' in the Rain, it is streaming on Hulu right now, and if you have not seen it, check it out. And if you haven't seen it on the big screen, like I said, it plays frequently at repertory screenings, at least in Los Angeles. So if you haven't seen it on the big screen, I highly recommend doing that. Before we get into our next picture, I just want to mention that we're going to be talking about a lot of kids movies, but that doesn't necessarily mean leave your kids in the room, because we're going to be using the words dick and dyke quite a bit.
Yeah, there is a lot of Dick Van Dyke in these
like,
in our
where is this-
selections.
It's like, where is this going?
All right, Max.
Yes, we are. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang
Hell
is
yeah.
the film that I've chosen to start off with. One of my absolute favorites, 1967. This is a Cubby Broccoli produced film with music written by the Sherman Brothers. They have written 3 out of 6 of the music of movies that we're watching today. We're talking about today. So that's really just shows like where we're at in this moment. I love Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Yeah, starring Dick Van Dyke and Sally Ann Howes. For just the briefest primer, if you've never seen this film, it's about an inventor, Caractacus Potts, and he lives in, I don't know, long ago England, like 1904 or something like that. I think it says like in the opening credits. And his kids convince him to buy this broken down race car, and he puts some funny inventions in it. And then he and fake Julie Andrews and their kids take adventures, and the car flies and it floats. I mean, like, the movie's been out for 60 years. If you haven't even seen a clip of it, I would be very surprised, right?
Yeah,
It's been around forever.
For sure.
Absolutely one of my favorite movies. Another movie that's just absolutely bananas. This movie goes...
It's
crazy.
batshit crazy.
It's batshit crazy. But I will say, it's not even half as crazy, in my opinion, as Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So, which...
Fair point, honestly.
we will get to. I would love to hear your opinions first and foremost about this movie.
Dude, it's been almost 2 weeks to the date since I watched this movie, and I still cannot for the life of me get that goddamn theme song out of my head.
Oh, chitty, you chitty, pretty, chitty, bang,
Yeah.
bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, we love you. And chitty, pretty, chitty, bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang. What we'll do near chitty, far, chitty, in her motor car.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
have time to spend. Bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang, bang, our fine four-fendered friend. Bang, bang, chitty, chitty, bang.
Fine four-fendered friend. I can't. But like, yeah, it's funny too, because when the film started, I was like, man, this is a banger. Like, I can't get enough of this song. This is awesome. And then they sing it like 5 more times at least.
Hell yeah,
And
dude.
then I started to think like, okay, wait a second. Like, is this song going to make me bash my head through the wall? Like, just maybe. It's the oh chitty you chitty pretty chitty bang bang chitty chitty bang bang we love you. It's the line that is like looping on repeat in my head 24/7 because it's really fun. Like it is.
It's a great song.
It's, it's kind of a tongue twister a little bit, but yeah, it does get a bit old after a while. No, but honestly, this movie was so cute. Like, it's a classic magical musical from the 60s, which I feel like was weirdly like a pretty common genre of its time. Like, it reminded me a lot of, I don't know if you guys ever watched like Babes in Toyland, which is another fantastical musical from this era.
I've never seen it.
That I grew up watching. And it's also equally like bizarre and creepy and long, to be honest. I know I watched Chitty Chitty Bang Bang like at least once as a kid, but after recently watching it now, I realized that the only thing that stuck with me was that song and the goddamn child catcher, which is still one of the creepiest, like genuinely scariest things I've ever seen in my life.
Child catcher is my absolute favorite part of this film.
Dude, whoever thought that was okay, like, that like traumatized a generation.
Treacle tots, ice creams, and all free today. I love to sneak up behind Emily and do that.
Oh, it's so scary. And it's like also the way that like the villagers react to him that just makes it even more terrifying.
Yeah, they run in fear. Not a lot of children's movies deal with totalitarianism directly as a theme of their film.
Right.
Yeah.
Very few deal with like authoritarianism and fascism, and I have picked 2 of those movies to talk about today. just to show you what kind of 8-year-old I was.
I mean, yeah, honestly, to get all my like criticism of this movie out of the way, because I think it honestly is like a really fun and impressive film. For me, it was just a little bit too long for its genre specifically, like just
Very
a
long.
few too many songs for me. I think it has like 23 songs and a runtime of like 2 hours.
And you don't get the first song until like 18 minutes in.
Yeah, no, it's kind of wild. And like most of them are bangers, but like because there are so many, I did kind of struggle to get through some of them. But all that being said, like this is still a movie and a musical that I can 100% appreciate. And I'm really glad that I rewatched it after all this time because like they went above and beyond to make this film, which makes it pretty incredible.
$10 million budget, which was big money back in 1967.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, you can tell, like, my mind was kind of blown watching the things that they did in this, like the practical effects and everything. Like, cause it has such a fantastical, magical concept. I was kind of like, okay, are they going to be able to like pull this off? Like from Caractacus kind of like oddball futuristic inventions. I especially loved the breakfast machine. That was sick.
Yeah, this Rube Goldberg hard-boiled egg machine. Yeah, right.
So cool. And then like Chitty Chitty Bang Bangs, like the phantasmagorical machine moves on land, water, and air. So fucking cool.
Consider just how much they filmed on location for this movie.
Yeah.
The entire movie was filmed on location in the UK. I think it was filmed at Pinewood, but also filmed in Germany. Like it was all over. Whereas a film like this, Mary Poppins, just 3 years before, was filmed entirely on stage.
Yeah.
The whole thing was filmed in soundstage.
Like most of the films we talk about today, I think were like entirely on a soundstage.
Yeah. But this movie was legit out there in the English countryside. I mean, it's that $10 million goes a long way. It looks like it.
Totally.
Nick, have you seen this movie? Had you seen this?
This was my first time ever seeing Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and and I had never seen any clip. I had no idea. I had heard of it, obviously.
Wow.
I knew about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I'm not even sure if I knew it was a movie. I just thought it was like a song. I'd heard the song before. That was as much as I knew.
Yeah, I feel like everyone knows the song.
And so I I'm sitting down and I'm watching it, and it was early in the film. I think Truly drops off the kids at home, And at some point during that interaction, Grandpa Potts comes out of the house.
Yeah.
And he walks over and he kind of like dance walks over to Truly and says some shit that I don't even know what he says. I'm not even positive that it was English. And then he dance walks over to his little hut, and it's like the dance walk is simultaneously fly as fuck and unnervingly bad somehow at the same time. I'm not even sure how it's possible, but it was at this moment.
It's really confusing.
Yeah, it was at this moment where I was like, and it's a small moment, but I was like, this movie's going to be fucking crazy. And it was also,
what does he do? What does he do in that little hut? I to this day I still cannot figure out.
He's doing drugs.
He's traveling.
Good afternoon, miss. Sorry I can't stop. I'm off to India. Gonna have a cup of tea with the Maharaja. Cheerio.
I'm going to India. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Lunch with the Maharaja, I think is what he said.
Well, and like at first I was like, oh, cool. So like he maybe like Caractacus built him like a machine that makes him travel to far places. But then he's just, you can see him in there, like just chilling in there.
He's clinically insane. He just sits there, he just stands there and talks to himself.
Yeah. But
so he doesn't have to babysit his grandkids. Like I don't know what it
is. Absolutely.
It's so funny. It is the most bizarre like choice for this film.
It's so crazy intro to a character. And he just like dude.
And then he has a whole musical number from that house as he's being dipped into the
ocean.
Ocean. Yeah.
Don't even get me started on Posh. I loved Posh.
Yes.
But I don't know if I have an opinion on this film other than that it was crazy as hell. I enjoyed watching it. But it just continued to, I had no idea where it was going to go. I'll give it that. Like I had absolutely no idea where this movie was going. And it's seemingly from scene to scene, it seemed like the writers had no idea where the fuck it was going to go either, because they're just like one-upping they're like, how could we give less of a fuck in this next scene?
You didn't expect a Goldfinger to show up and kidnap a car and the family inside?
No. And then it's just like the Baroness who hates children.
Yeah,
and
can we talk about
the underworld of all these hidden, forgotten children?
Urchins.
Crazy stuff, and a really odd structure for this film too. I thought, because it starts. For like the first 50 minutes, I think even it's like a grounded, I mean, not really grounded. You have Grandpa Potts dancing like a freak. But for essentially the first half, it's like this basic story. And then it goes into this fairy tale where it's like, oh, we're telling a story. It's like that story within a story, which is a frequently used trope in a lot of children's films. Mm-hmm. But most of the time, it like bookends the film with it. It's like, okay, this is the beginning and the end. It doesn't start that, technique 50 minutes into the film. So it's just...
Yeah. I think it's also like more clear in other movies.
Yes,
In this one, I was like, wait, what the fuck is happening? Like, is this real now? The story that he's telling?
But that's what I love about it, is that you're left
really
wondering... Cool. Because at the end, Truly and Caractacus fall in love, and they do love each other. And so you're left wondering, was it from that one day at the beach? Did this story actually kind of happen? And when you're a kid, you kind of forget that this is a story that he's telling. And so I love that it blurs the line between reality and fantasy. As an adult, you're like, this is a very weird choice. But as a kid, I think it's great.
I could totally see it.
I mean, yeah, even as an adult, I forgot what the hell was going on. I was like, dude.
Even in the fairy tale part, I like forgot. I was like, oh shit, I forgot they're trying to get Grandpa. Like so much shit has happened since Grandpa got taken. It's like, I was like, all right, they got the car back and the kids, get the F out of there. I was like, oh wait, Grandpa.
I forgot about Grandpa.
And he's trapped with all the other kidnapped inventors that have the long beards and stuff.
That was a great number. That
yeah,
from
like
the
that one
ashes,
too.
great number. Loved it.
Roses of Success.
Roses of Success, yeah.
This movie, I think, has some of the Sherman Brothers' best work in terms of music. There's songs in this movie that I sing every single day to my daughter. Every day. I know it sounds crazy, but like Doll on a Music Box.
That's a great one.
I sing that to her.
Amazing.
To take a nap. I'll sing Choochie Face because it's funny and it's cute, and I like to like squeeze her little cheeks. Or I'll sing, Truly Scrumptious, which is a fantastic number, the one that they sing on the beach, right, with the kids. It's just got such good, memorable songs, like you said, Bella. That this Chitty Chitty Bang Bang stuck in your head. You watch this again, and I promise you'll have a different song that you'll just be thinking of all night long for the next 2 weeks. It's so good.
I will say, like, Hushabye Mountain, the like lullaby he sings. I was like, yeah, gonna sing that to my kids. Like, that is gorgeous.
Even weird songs like Me Old Bamboo, right? It was just like a weird song.
Me Old Bamboo was lit. That was such a fun scene.
Is amazing. He's so good.
Yeah. I also love Toot Sweets, of course.
Yeah, the Toot Sweet dance choreography is jaw-dropping. My God, when they're like swinging around on those carts, and somehow the carts are staying stationary, but they're spinning round and round, and again, all in one shot.
Yeah,
the dancers are just flying on and off them willy-nilly. It is one of the more impressive dance numbers I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's
agree.
Really remarkable. Well, I'll just throw out some quick trivia that I love about this movie. I did say that Sally Ann House is a Julie Andrews knockoff. So that's a little shade, but it's honest. It's true because Cubby Broccoli, that's who he wanted for that part. And she turned it down. She said no. She was afraid of being typecast in the Mary Poppins, Maria von Trapp type of thing, and so she turned it down. Sally Ann House replaced Julie Andrews as Eliza Doolittle on the West End in 1958. So they approached her and said, "You replaced her in that show.
No
you want to come
way.
do it here?" And she was like, "Hell yeah!" And so that's why she looks and sounds exactly like her.
Yeah, it was kind of trippy to me. I was like, wait.
Yes,
so what's
because
going on here?
if you imagine that as meant to be Julie Andrews, that's who that
I can see it.
For.
Yeah.
And this movie, I keep saying Cubby Broccoli, but if you're a film fan, you know who Cubby Broccoli is. Like, you have to know he is the producer and creator of the entire James Bond series on film. Like, he is the reason we have James Bond. And he's Ian Fleming, who wrote the James Bond novels, wrote this book, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, for his son as like a fun children's book. And so Cubby Broccoli went to Ian Fleming and said, I want to make this into a movie as well, especially after the success, watching Walt Disney's success with Mary Poppins. He's like, okay, we can do this. And then they turn that into this mega, crazy musical. And that's why Gert Frobe, who plays Goldfinger in Goldfinger, is also in this, because he and Cubby Broccoli were friends. And then I think the last piece of trivia that I think is really interesting is that they made like 5 or 6 of these Chitty Chitty Bang Bang cars.
No way.
Production, but only one is a hero car that could actually like drive and stuff. And it was bought at auction by none other than Peter Jackson.
What?
Yeah, Peter Jackson owns the original Chitty Chitty Bang Bang car.
I mean, that would be sick. I mean, like, I was shocked at the way they were able to like really convincingly create this like Transformer. Honestly.
It is a Transformer.
The
Wow,
original Transformer.
It is the original Transformer, and it's sick. It's cool. I want one.
I could talk about this movie all day, literally all day. I know we don't have time, but
It's so much fun.
Honestly could.
The one thing I'll say that you know what this film just needed at the end, because like I said, it just keeps raising the stakes on what the fuck is happening moments.
Yeah.
The film ends, and Potts finally gets this feeling of accomplishment, like he's accomplished something in his life, and he's made his kids proud, and he's like, he feels worthy for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
Worthy enough for truly, which is essentially how we end the film. So I think what we should have gotten was a little Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, if you know what I'm talking about, and I think you do.
I think it's heavily implied. They do say that the seats are like a feather bed in there.
It's right.
Very true.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Yeah, a trippy ass film, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, streaming now on HBO Max.
For my second film, I've picked yet another core childhood film for me. A truly gorgeous and magical musical. Honestly, another 5 out of 5 movie for me, beginning to end, introducing Disney's Mary Poppins. While this is an instant classic, if you're not familiar with the film, I'll give you a quick little synopsis. So the film centers on the Banks family, Mr. Banks, Mrs. Banks, and of course their 2 adorable children, Jane and Michael. However, the children kind of feel that their father neglects them a lot of the time, which causes them to be quite mischievous, acting out, all that typical kind of stuff, which ultimately drives their current nanny to immediately quit her position. So in her absence, the 2 children decide to write an advertisement for their dream nanny, cue Mary Poppins, a beautiful, kind, loving, poised, and not to mention magical nanny. Mary Poppins discovers the children's advertisement and finds herself called to Cherry Tree Lane to care for them. From then on, she imbues very clever and powerful life messages into the children through a whirlwind of songs, adventures, and just a touch of magic here and there, all while simultaneously working to mend the children's relationship with their father. So it's a very sweet and sentimental movie. And Julie Andrews plays Mary Poppins, and she is, of course, practically perfect in every way. Aside from just an incredible performance with such a beautiful voice, incredible musical and talent and dancing, I think as a character, Mary Poppins is just like such an exceptional role model. Like, she's incredibly smart, she's stylish, she's gorgeous, she's selfless, she's open-minded, she's honest, deeply loving, and honestly really funny too. I think she has this like subtle sense of humor that is just hilarious and like perfect for her character. And I can only dream of having as much poise as Mary Poppins one day. She's truly an icon. And then, of course, we have another one of a kind, Dick Van Dyke performance as Bert, who is just amazing in this film. I loved him in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang as well, but I love him in Mary Poppins. He's like the perfect gentleman, like a father figure to the children, and he just is a very special person to everyone in the film. And I don't know if anyone else could have played this role as well as Dick Van Dyke.
Yes.
And same goes for Julie Andrews as Mary Poppins, of course.
Forbearance is the hallmark of your creed, she says. A lady
Goat.
needn't fear when you are near. Your sweet gentility is crystal clear, right?
Yes.
That's what
You
she
won't
says.
rape me, mister.
Yeah. Literally, I was like, damn, very low standards back then, but like,
Yeah.
I will say
He's
it does
the
feel like
goat.
she's like friend zoning him in that song. That's how I always took it. As
Absolutely.
she's kind of friend zoning.
Absolutely.
But I also really appreciate that she's just like, dude, you're just like a nice guy, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that because
Yeah,
nobody's
I
trying to
love
hit
that.
that, and you're just like cool about it.
Especially when you're Mary Poppins. I mean, everybody wants Mary Poppins.
Yes, that's the song
Yeah.
I sing to my daughter probably every other
Oh.
day's Jolly Holiday from
It's
this movie.
one of the greatest of all
It is.
time. Yeah.
I agree with everything that you said, Bella. I think that this movie is truly it's magical. I think that it's kind of like like lightning in a bottle in a way.
Yeah, I like that.
Where like every just small element comes together to create something really awesome. It's so funny. It's so sweet. I really straight up love that Mary Poppins is kind of like sarcastic. She's kind of like a dick a little bit to those kids.
Oh, I love it.
She's kind of firm with them. And honestly, like,
she's intense. Yeah.
She should be firmer. Those kids are brats. Let's be real. Those kids
they were brats.
Needed to get a little backhand.
But weirdly, she's the kind of grounding force of this movie, that all these things are happening around her that are fantastical. And Bert's like, come on, Mary Poppins, show us how to jump into a chalk painting. And she straight up is gaslighting them. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't do that. I'm just like,
the gaslighting is so good. It's so funny.
I like that she just straight up denies them until she finally is like, all right, fine, let's go. And then and they do, but like that is such a unique perspective for this character to have.
Yeah.
For her to be kind of a dick in this like beloved way. We all have those high school teachers that were like kind of a dick, but you could tell they really loved you, or that uncle who was that way, or that aunt, so I do think it's very relatable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it fits well with like her approach to the children. Like, I think it's like what makes her so clever. I mean, obviously like gaslighting children is not great, but like
it is if you're getting them to clean up their friggin' room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I love that she like has that scene where she's like gaslighting them about the whole like jolly holiday they had, and then to top it off, she sings like the lullaby "Stay Awake," which is just like I think one of the
reverse psychology
best lullabies ever. Like, literally I was watching it with my roommate and I look over and she's like passed the fuck out. I was like, yeah, exactly.
I'll show you. Tell me to stay awake.
Right.
Yeah, it's just right out.
It's so awesome.
I'm dying to know, Nick, what you thought of this.
Yeah, because you saw this for the first time in theaters, which I'm so
absolutely mind-boggling to me.
Another childhood classic that Nick had not seen. I was too busy watching St. Elmo's Fire,
Raging Bull, whatever.
Yeah, Raging Bull and shit. So indeed, I went to the El Capitan Theater, which is Disney's theater on Hollywood Boulevard.
That's where to see it, man. That is awesome. To see it.
And it was an incredible experience. I mean, people were dressed up, as chimney sweepers and Mary Poppins and all this stuff. And I walk into the auditorium and there's an organ player on the stage doing a full-blown hour-long set of Disney scores.
Wow.
I'm jealous. That sounds amazing.
And before the film, this MC comes on who actually knew Richard Sherman. Used to work with Richard Sherman.
Oh, wow.
So he was telling the story because he was always trying to like get stories from Sherman. So he told the story about Feed the Birds and Disney. Apparently Disney was not a enthusiastic kind of guy. He wasn't the kind of guy who'd like give you an attaboy or an attagirl. But when you did do something good, he would just say, that'll work. And so Sherman was telling the story of when they first played him Feed the Birds for Walt Disney. They didn't hear anything and they looked up and they saw Walt Disney had like all these tears in his eyes and he started crying and he said, that'll work. That'll work. And he like left the room. And so that apparently that's Walt Disney's favorite song is Feed the Birds.
I think very famously, Dick Sherman has said that Walt would go to their office like on Fridays on his way out and ask them to play Feed the Birds. He and Bob would play it for Walt, and then Walt would leave. Like every Friday he would come. All right, just play my song, nerds, right. And then they'd play it, and then he'd
play my song, nerds.
Power trip.
Come on, Jews, let's hear the song.
Exactly.
Play it for me.
So then the other thing before the film, they did a curtain show, which the El Capitan is actually the last theater in the country that still does curtain shows. For those listening who don't know what a curtain show is, it's where they have essentially all these lights dancing along the huge curtain before it opens up. And even as it opens up, there's like all these other layers of curtains and backdrops and all this thing. There's like 18 layers of curtains, and
Wow.
it's all opening up, and it's set to this beautiful score. It's really magical. So, and they do a great job of it at the El Capitan. So, I mean, all this, I was set up for magic. The stage was set, you know,
Right.
for Mary Poppins. And I thought it was all right.
Excuse me?
I totally understand and see why it is a classic.
Yeah.
Julie Andrews, this was her first movie too, was it not?
Oh yeah. Not only that,
wild.
she won the Oscar for this Best Actress.
Yeah.
And very
Incredible.
famously, I just love this story. Sorry, small sidebar.
Yeah.
She was passed over for the role of Eliza Doolittle for My Fair Lady that came out the same year.
Oh, wow.
And it went to Audrey Hepburn. That Jack Warner wanted Audrey Hepburn because she was a big star already at the time.
Right.
And despite Julie Andrews playing her on Broadway. So when she won the Oscar, for which Audrey Hepburn was not even nominated, she went up and thanked Jack Warner on stage in her speech. You can watch it on YouTube. She said, "Thank you very much, Jack Warner, for passing me over."
Wow.
Probably might not have won the Oscar.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Incredible.
amazing.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, she's amazing in this movie. I love David Tomlinson in this movie. He is really funny, man.
So
like,
Yeah, he is.
He plays the dope, you know, like the dopey, stringent dude. But I think I laughed out loud more with his performance and dialogue than with any other character in the film. I loved a lot of elements in the film, but it was noticeably long. Having watched it for the first time as an adult male, I was like, this movie needs to be over. Like now.
yes. It drags in the middle for sure. I absolutely agree with that.
And I think Max, you and I were texting about this, and you know, from a script standpoint, it makes sense why, but the movie loses so much of its energy and voice when Mary Poppins is not on the screen, which is for a pretty significant amount of time in this film. Like she's not in the movie a lot. And it's not like, you know, Silence of the Lambs, where
that's what I compared it to.
Hannibal Lecter is, you know, only on screen for 10 minutes. But when Hannibal Lecter's not on screen, you have this incredible dense character in Jodie Foster, and you have fucking Buffalo Bill, who's the freakiest freak of all the freaks.
Right.
So there's plenty, and his presence is there. So it just needed more Poppins in my. This needed more Poppins, and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang needed more Bang Bang. Those are my notes.
Kids movies, Nick.
Well.
No, I'm kidding. I totally get that. Like for me, I understand the reasoning of like the whole bank scene and stuff, but it's kind of boring for me. That's like the one part of this movie that I'm just like, like take it or leave it. I get how it connects back to like the father trying to connect with his children, but like it's such a big portion of it too.
I mean, if I'm editing this movie, I cut Feed the Birds. I know it's sacrilegious, but I cut it, and then I also but I would also cut the Love to Laugh scene, which I truly love. I truly love it, but it serves absolutely no
purpose. Yeah,
no function whatsoever. Just
like
another fun adventure out, and we already did that with Supercalifragilistic, you know, and that's unbeatable. That is unbeatable.
Yeah.
And so if you're just trying to tighten and Chim Chim Cheree is like just a fucking masterpiece. That's an Oscar-winning song.
Yeah.
The whole Stepping Time, when they come down the chimney and they're like, it's the master stepping time. It's the master stepping. It's so funny to me. You know, you just got to cut some trim. I think you leave the bank scene in only because the bank is the villain, right?
It's
Like
the
it's
villain.
work is the
Yeah.
villain.
Yeah, you got to have it from a structure standpoint. Yeah,
Capitalism is the villain, Bella.
Yeah,
Okay, fair.
which I did appreciate, and I thought it was from a script standpoint, it was totally brilliant. But I was like, you have Dick Van Dyke playing the old guy. I just think they could have done more with that number.
Right.
Like if you're gonna have this number with all these old guys, for God's sakes, make them do something.
Make them dance.
Like make them dance. Like in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, they have the old guys dancing their asses off. I was like, this is what Mary Poppins should have done.
Agreed.
I think in my like little kid brain, I mixed up those two scenes with those two movies because I totally thought the whole reason they had Dick Van Dyke play that guy was to do some like crazy action, and then he doesn't. And I was like, okay, he's really convincing, but like, give me more, you know?
Yes. And actually, this is the perfect way, because we just talked about the Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, to talk about Dick Van Dyke's performance in one versus the other. You know, like him catching such intense flack for that accent. I was reading that he apologized at the BAFTAs that year in front of the crowd of people, saying, I'll never attempt that English accent ever again. And it was so traumatizing both to him and movie-going audiences that 3 years later, when he made Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, everybody else in the movie has an English accent except for him.
Yeah,
his kids and his father both have an accent, but he went to college in the US. You know, it's like, why doesn't he have one? Because he's bad at it, and he's like, I'm not going to embarrass myself again.
Bert, it's you.
In the flesh and at your service.
His accent is atrocious.
It's bad. It's really bad.
It's comically.
It is really bad, but I thought that was like the point of it.
Nope.
You know?
No.
Definitely not the point. I don't think he wanted to embarrass himself internationally. You know, I think this is like before vocal coaches became a thing. Before accent.
It must be
coaches.
if it was such a big thing too. Yeah.
And he was a big star already because of Bye Bye Birdie and stuff like that. So like, you know, he didn't have to audition in the same way that, you know, other people did. They just said, you have the part, figure out that accent. And he's like, I guess I will. And that was it.
Yeah, that's really funny. I got to talk about too, like, I think if anything, you can just simply appreciate like the production design and like the gorgeous painted backdrops of this film. And just like the special or like practical effects are seamless. And it, I still don't know how they did the never ending suitcase scene. That shit is so cool.
Mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a mirror under the table.
Because then they have like the little boy go under it, and it's really cool the way they do it. Like they cut it so well that it is like very convincing.
I always loved the nanny applicants blowing away in that opening scene.
Oh my god, yes.
That was always so funny, but also it's technically a marvel that it's all that wire work done.
Yeah.
Really, really
It
good.
looks pretty real
It's
too.
really
like if that was something that could happen in the real world. I just love this like blend of live action and 2D animation, to be honest. Like it got me just thinking about the evolution of animation over time since this movie came out. Like, for example, in the farm scene in Jolly Holiday, it's kind of wild to think about how, like, if they did that scene now, it would probably just be CGI lifelike animals singing, which is really cool that we can do that. But I think sometimes it's also a little bit creepy because it's just like a little too real. Like, I know people had issues with that in Disney's live action Little Mermaid. Everyone was like, dude, they
and the Lion King.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because animals don't talk. So when you make them look real, it's upsetting when you see them talking because it actually it's harder to suspend your disbelief. If they are cartoons, it's easier to suspend your disbelief because they're cartoons. But if it looks like a lion and it's talking, it's like, well, this is stupid.
Yeah, like the animation in this is like, it's charming and I think it'd be really cool to see like a modern version of this. Not like the CGI version, but like a modern live action 2D animation kind of thing.
I was going to say, they had a sequel come out a few years ago. If you're
but like not like that.
Also not great.
Yeah, it was fine. I mean, I love Emily Blunt, but it's no match to the original. You know.
I will say, I think the Sherry Bobbins episode of The Simpsons, I'd put it over Mary Poppins. It's just my personal taste. Don't at me. I figured
you were going to bring this up. I had a feeling.
Don't at me. But this is why I didn't see Mary Poppins for so long. I was like, I've seen The Simpsons.
Like,
I got it. I get the gist.
I mean, that's fair.
It's much tighter. It's much tighter.
My favorite piece of trivia about this movie is that it was so profitable. It made so much money that Walt Disney used the money to buy land in Florida and start another theme park.
Wow.
No way.
It's literally, he bought the land for Disney World and was able to finance its construction based on the box office gross of Mary Poppins.
Holy shit. Learn something new every day, folks.
Yeah.
What was your guys' favorite song in this movie, if you had to choose one?
Oh, gosh.
It's hard.
I love the Chim Chim Cheree Step in Time combo. It's just such a great number. It's so fun.
It's so much fun.
As much as I love to sing Jolly Holiday, there's a reason why Chim Chim Cheree and Step in Time have really stood the test of time, I think.
Yeah, they're timeless.
That lullaby one you mentioned earlier, I think, was quite beautiful.
Stay Awake.
Yeah. That one gave me goosebumps in the theater.
It's so beautiful. I think mine would have to be, honestly, I love A Spoonful of Sugar. I think
it's great. Yeah.
It's so catchy. It's so genius. It's such a awesome kind of metaphor for life. As a kid, I took it very literally. I was just cool. Sugar with medicine, that makes sense. But as an adult, I was like, oh shit, that's actually a really sweet idea of it's kind of the same thing as treating yourself to a good meal or a sweet treat at the end of a long day, just the little things that get you by in life.
I think you bring up a really interesting point that is kind of in my mind a segue to talking about the next three movies. Is that when and how you adapt material from somebody else's work into your own, what do you keep and what do you change from what works? And P.L. Travers, the author of Mary Poppins, very famously did not like this movie. She was not a fan. She was whatever about the music. She didn't like how they changed the characterization of Mary Poppins, and she hated the animation. And
because she literally said just whatever you do, please don't make this a musical or they did both. They did both. It's kind of awful.
Mary Poppins in the book is very mean. She's not.
Yeah, she's not.
The spoonful of sugar part is not in it. She's take your medicine and be quiet. Where to change it, to add the spoonful of sugar is a positive change from the source material that I think everybody's this is kind of a little bit more. This is more appealing. It's not as English. It's a little more American in its take, right? Where we're spoonful of sugar. Whereas the English are I'll drink my cod liver oil straight out of the bottle if I have to. It's part of my lot in life. So some of the other stuff we're going to talk about has some serious adaptation challenges, and I think that this is a good jumping off point talking about this song in particular.
Definitely. Yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more about the behind the scenes of Mary Poppins, Saving Mr. Banks tells you all about it. It's not the best movie, but I remember watching that in theaters, and it was just kind of puts a damper on Mary Poppins a little bit, just knowing the whole history of it, but it is also really interesting.
But it's real.
Yeah, it's real life. It's cool. It's cool to know. I love Emma Thompson as Mrs. Travers. Mm-hmm. It's pretty awesome.
Mary Poppins, it's streaming on Disney Plus, and also on Disney Plus, Sherry Bobbins, the episode. All right, Max, you segued us into it, so let's get into your second pick.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks. This is a Disney movie from 1971.
Mhm.
And this stars Angela Lansbury and David Tomlinson again. This is his second movie on this list. Another Sherman Brothers composition, because why the hell not? It stars Angela Lansbury in 1941 or 2. I think this takes place right at the height of the Blitz, the bombing of London, and this is true in real life. Thousands and thousands of children were sent out of London for their own protection. They were sent to the English countryside because the Nazis were bombing London every single night for a year. Every single night they had bombs dropped on them. And in this instance, Angela Lansbury is forced to take in 3 orphans. They're street toughs, really. I mean, they're like real urchins, these kids. And she takes them into her house. What they don't know is that she's an apprentice witch. She's a practicing witch who's attempting to learn witchcraft and wizardry to help bring an end to the war. Like, that's her goal.
Mm-hmm.
And when they find out that she's a witch, they blackmail her into giving them a magic bed that can transport them anywhere they want to go, and hijinks ensue. This to me is the epitome of like the truly bonkers musical. It's so bizarre. It's so fun. But I will say, I think that this is like a poor man's Mary Poppins. This to me is like a poor man's Mary Poppins. And it's evident in a few ways that they bought the rights to this. Disney bought the rights to this before Mary Poppins. Mm-hmm. And then when they got the rights to Mary Poppins, they shelved this one until they could do the real one that Walt actually wanted to make. And then after a few years, like, well, we'll come back to this one. And they did. Is it as good? No. Like, I will say that. It's my pick. I put it on here. Is it as good as Mary Poppins? No. Is it just as fun and weird as Mary Poppins? Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's
for sure.
It's absolutely Crazy Town Banana Pants. So I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on this before we circle back around and I share some of my own.
Yeah. Oh my God, Max, I was so excited when I saw that you had picked Bedknobs and Broomsticks, because this movie is honestly a staple of my childhood.
So glad
and like,
to hear it.
I've never met anyone who's seen it. Like, literally never. I was talking about it with my brother the other day, because I was like, yeah, he picked Bedknobs and Broomsticks. And he was like, no fucking way.
I think it's becoming increasingly rare that people have seen this movie.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. But oh my God, I watched this movie on repeat as a kid. Like, it was like my favorite. And yeah, it is pretty crazy.
It has, in my opinion, the best climax of any movie musical ever.
Yes.
It is. The climax of this movie is so off the wall and so strange, but they do tee it up right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You know, they really throw these hints at you, but you don't know what exactly to expect, but they are throwing it at you. And then when it actually happens, because I don't want to spoil it, you just got to watch this goddamn movie.
Yeah.
It is the best, strangest fun.
It really is. It is. I feel like it is a good, if you wanted to do like a double feature, you could do this and Mary Poppins and have a great time.
It's a long day. That's
a long day.
Like 6 hours of movies and only 2 movies right there.
Six hours of shitty white children.
I think the kids in Bedknobs are far funnier. They're so.
Oh yeah,
funnier.
they got.
They're
they
definitely
got
better than Jane and Michael. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, what do you got?
Yeah.
Again, first time watch. Of the. I did enjoy this actually more than Mary Poppins, I think. From a film standpoint, from like a story, like when I didn't know diddly squat about this. So when we discover that she's an apprentice witch, I was like, oh, broomsticks. Oh, I'm fucking in. Let's go. I get it. Okay. All right, I'm in. We're witching. Amazing. Loved the concept. Loved the war effort, like implications and that whole thing being injected into it. It had like the perfect combination of magic and realism and real world high stakes and heart. So from a story standpoint and a filmmaking standpoint, I preferred this over Poppins, where Poppins obviously has it beat are A, the songs, and B, the choreography, obviously.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
I think the songs are not nearly as catchy. In fact, I can't honestly think of one right now from this film. And I did some research, and it seems like a lot of songs got cut from the film, which is a shame. And it sounds like probably the better ones, like the more character-rich developing songs were the ones that got cut, which is a bummer to hear. So on Disney Plus, I think they have the theatrical cut, which is just under 2 hours. I'm not sure if the extended cut is available anywhere. Have either of you seen that version?
I've never seen it, and I think I might try to track down a Blu-ray so I can find some of these because I am curious. I know that "Bobbing Along" was written for Mary Poppins. It was written for that film in a sequence where they go underwater, and then they were like, we're not going to do this, and so just kept it in the back pocket for a different movie. Yeah,
it
and
worked. Yeah.
And I guess Portobello Road was supposed to be like, twice as long of a number, which that's a great number. I think that's actually my favorite song in the film, but
so fun.
I love that one.
Watching this movie as a kid, when my mom and I went to London, she took me on a trip when I was 14, and we went to Portobello Road because of this movie. We had never been. We were like, we got to check it out, and they do. It's one long street filled with street vendors on either side, and you go and you buy old junk. It was pretty cool.
So cool.
Yeah, the fact that it's still a thing. It's still an actual thing.
That's awesome.
There are some. Like Disney had to be on acid. Like he had to be an acid head, right? Because there are a lot of acid influenced scenes in this, and obviously in a lot of his films, like Alice in Wonderland and so many of his films. But when they first go on that bed and are traveling, I'm like, oh,
dude,
it's 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's absolutely
so
that
cool.
scene from 2001: A Space Odyssey where they go plaid or whatever, and everything goes bonkers. It's exactly that.
It's so cool. I love the colors and the way they do that scene. And I love when the bed pulls up to where it's supposed to be and it's all shaking and the sparkles are falling off of it. It's it's magical.
This movie and Mary Poppins both won the Oscar for special effects for the same for the same special effects. It's called sodium vapor. How they basically how they light the scenes where there's animation at the same time. Essentially, they use a sodium vapor lighting that, I don't know. I was reading about it. I don't quite understand. Maybe Nick, you understand a little bit better than I would, but it essentially lights the film in such a way that you can create a perfect matte to paint on the negative, and then that you can seamlessly put in the animation and the real life characters, how you can get light coming in through Mary Poppins' veil that I was reading is only because of sodium vapor at that time period. It's the only way.
That's
whereas a
really
green screen
cool.
wouldn't have been able to do that.
Right.
So this movie won an Oscar. Dude,
rightfully so,
for special effects, but
I think they also won an Oscar for The Age of Not Believing.
I think it was nominated. I don't think it won.
Oh yeah, it was just nominated. Yeah,
that was a great song. Okay, now they're coming back to me. That was a really great song. Yeah,
it's just a classic. Yeah,
I think Angela Lansbury almost underutilized in this movie. Honestly, in terms of her singing talent, she's very straight, and I like that she's very no nonsense with the kids and in kind of a Mary Poppins-esque way. But like, she's such a great singer. I kind of wish she had another song or two, you know?
She did.
Well, she did.
She had a song called A Step in the Right Direction.
You're right, it was cut.
Yeah.
But it's really sad too, because apparently like they have the recording, but they could never find the film.
Yeah.
So there's like no way to see it, which is such a bummer. Because she's oh my God, I love Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
I think she's amazing.
She's great. I do know, I was reading again that like they approached Julie Andrews for that same part for Eglantine Price. And she turned it down and then later was like, damn, you know what? I wish I had taken that role. She actually regretted it later on. And to think it would have been a different movie.
Role.
It would have been, yeah.
I think it would have been a different movie and a much higher profile movie if she was in it.
Yeah.
Thinking that it might have had a real boost from her stardom.
Yeah.
They probably would have been able to add some juice to the choreography also if Julie Andrews had done it.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things I really love about this movie is just like a consideration of the time period in which it was made. Like this is 1971. And at the same time that this movie comes out, like The French Connection comes out, you know?
Right.
I was thinking about that, like all the movies that came out during this movie.
The Godfather comes out the year after this. You know what I almost put on this list was Hello Dolly. I almost had Hello Dolly on here. And Hello Dolly is like I think we talked about this on the last episode, is like the death knell of movie musicals of the 60s because it was so big and lost so much money and lost the Oscar to like Midnight Cowboy or something like that. Just two completely opposite films. Like they could not be more polar opposite. And so like I get that you still have to make kids movies. You still have to make kids movies, right? But that this is like the height of Vietnam, the height of like student protests, the height of unrest in America. Nixon is the president. And so it's like it's such an interesting adaptation to make a kids movie that combines animated fish and Nazis. It's like such a really strange place to be in.
It's a swing. It's a giant swing, and it could probably only happen in a certain moment in time because it is in this transitional period in American cinema. Also
the studio system's breaking down. Plenty of World War II vets are still alive and take their kids or grandkids to come see this movie, so like it's just a really fascinating moment in time. I think this film is.
I love this movie so much. It's so good. I honestly love the like animated sequence, like the soccer game and the beautiful briny sea. Did you guys ever watch like Animal Olympics? It was like an 80s cartoon.
No.
It's like, I don't know why I watched it. I think my uncle showed it to me when I was really little, but it's like reminded me so. If anyone's watched it out there, it's really similar to like the soccer game, which I love the animated soccer game scene in this. I think it's so funny.
Draguna McCoides, Shakorum Satis D.
Draguna McCoides, Shakorum Satis D.
I don't want to ruin the ending. Are you seriously? It's one of the best endings, I think. Emily and I watched it this week. She hadn't seen it in, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years. I showed it to her a long time ago, and she didn't remember anything about it. We got to the end, she was like, that was the end? That was crazy. Yeah, man, that's the fun.
Right. Well, Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It is streaming on Disney Plus, I believe. Yes, streaming on Disney Plus. So check it out and let us know what you think.
All right, everyone, we're going to leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger today. To give you guys something to look forward to, we're going to pick back up with Max and Bella's movie musical picks in the second part of this episode, where we'll discuss our final 2 picks for our movie musical extravaganza. So be sure to tune in next week for the episode. We can't wait for you to hear our in-depth discussions of 2 incredible musicals, Annie and Little Shop of Horrors. We're also so excited to kick off next week's episode with another amazing segment of Sonja's Movie Minute. In the meantime, if you're looking for some more Gimme 3 content, you can sign up for our Patreon. The link is in our episode description, and you can sign up for just $5 a month. You can also follow the podcast on Instagram at Gimme 3 Podcast. That's GIMME, spell out 3, podcast. Let us know what you guys think of these films, and let us know your favorite movie musicals as well. Thank you so much for listening to the Gimme 3 podcast, and we'll see you at the movies.